The inscription, according to Wiki, the story told on the stela is set in the 18th year of the reign of Djoser. The text describes how the king is upset and worried as the land has been in the grip of a drought and famine for 7 years, during which time the Nile has not flooded the farmlands. The text also describes how the Egyptians are suffering as a result of the drought and that they are desperate and breaking the laws of the land. Djoser asks the priest staff under the supervision of High Lector priest Imhotep for help. The king wants to know where the god of the Nile, Hapi, is born, and which god resides at this place. Imhotep decides to investigate the archives of the temple Wtibadi, House of the Nets, located at Hermopolis and dedicated to the god Thoth. He informs the king that the flooding of the Nile is controlled by the god Khnum at Elephantine from a sacred spring located on the island, where the god resides. Imhotep travels immediately to the location, ancient Egyptian, JBW. In the temple of Khnum, called Joy of Life, Imhotep purifies himself, prays to Khnum for help and offers all good things to him. Suddenly, he falls asleep and in his dream Imhotep is greeted by the kindly-looking Khnum. The god introduces himself to Imhotep by describing who and what he is, and then describes his own divine powers. At the end of the dream Khnum promises to make the Nile flow again. Imhotep wakes up and writes down everything that took place in his dream. He then returns to Djoser to tell the king what has happened. The king is pleased with the news and issues a decree in which he orders priests, scribes, and workers to restore Khnum's temple and to once more make regular offerings to the god. In addition, Djoser issues a decree in which he grants the temple of Khnum at Elephantine, the region between Aswan and Tachomso, Koine Greek, Tau Alpha Chi Omicron Musai, with all its wealth, as well as a share of all the imports from Nubia. The dating of this artifact or script is around the same time as what I suspect regarding the hieroglyphs and Rosetta Stones, meaning the hieroglyphs are nothing but a Greco-Roman invention and cannot be used to support the antiquity we seek regarding the ancient Universal Empire. From Wiki, since the initial translation and examination by French Egyptologist Paul Barget in 1953, the famine stela has been of great interest to historians and Egyptologists. The language and layout used in the inscription suggests that the work can be dated to the Ptolemaic period, perhaps during the reign of King Ptolemy v. 205 to 180 BC. Egyptologists such as Miriam Lichthium and Werner Bisikel suggest that the local priests of Khnum created the text. The various religious groups in Egypt during Ptolemaic dynasty jostled for power and influence, so the story of the famine stela could have been used as a means to legitimize the power of Khnum's priests over the region of Elephantine. This artifact has the same problem with so many others. It dates to an ancient time but doesn't get discovered till 2 millennia later. The following ought not to be controversial, but it has evoked unnecessary emotional reactions lately from people who put on a false facade of being masculine, salt-of-the-earth Germanic types, so it will be for members only. But let me prime you for the rest of this post with attention towards the Rosetta Stones. First, allow me to introduce the translator of the first Rosetta Stone that all of you know. You'll notice he makes the gesture of the hidden hand. This is the Rosetta Stone most of you will see if you look it up, which wasn't discovered till 1798, of course. According to Wiki, 3 other inscriptions relevant to the same Memphis decree have been found since the discovery of the Rosetta Stone: the Nubera stele, a stele found in Elephantine and Nub Taha, and an inscription found at the Temple of Philae, on the Philae obelisk. Unlike the Rosetta Stone, the hieroglyphic texts of these inscriptions were relatively intact. The Rosetta Stone had been deciphered long before they were found, but later Egyptologists have used them to refine the reconstruction of the hieroglyphs that must have been used in the lost portions of the hieroglyphic text on the Rosetta Stone. I included a quote from Higgins in A God's Acre for Winds of the Soul: "The more Rosetta triplicate stones are found, the more the difficulty will be increased of accounting for the blindness of Clemens and Strabo." M. Champollion was sent to Egypt by Charles X to search for inscriptions, and of course, with the perfect approbation of the Jesuits. He kept up a close correspondence with the well-known Duc de Blancas, ambassador from France at Rome, and his discoveries, as described by the Marquis Benito, exhibit, in every part, a predetermination to support the Mosaic system, and this also creeps out from the Marquis perpetually in his lectures. Of which, I added, I've always suspected the Rosetta Stone was fake, once I looked deeply into its origins, and that Champollion was working at the behest of the Hidden Hand. My reason is this: if you research portraits of Champollion, they show him hiding his hand in the breast of his jacket. It is a deliberate symbol. I cited him in the previous book because we don't have much regarding translations of the hieroglyphics. This is also why I suspect the hieroglyphics are a somewhat modern invention, maybe even from the Common Era. His name could be viewed as the champion of Apollo or the Black Ham Apollo. The Hidden Hand is the solar cult. You can find photos of the current pope posing with his hand hidden in the breast of his coat. The motive of supporting the Mosaic system is a mighty fine one, because the Mosaic chronology supports the institutions enslaving you. To dive deep into this system, read Book 4, click the image. For those who want to see how extensive these forgeries get, and the patterns you need to be aware of to recognize them, become a paid member to access the rest of this article. If you've never been a member and want a comped month to see if my work is a good fit for you, follow these simple instructions.